اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا كل شيء خلقناه بقدر. وما أمرنا إلا واحدة كلمح بالبصر. ولقد أهلكنا أشياعكم فهل من مدكر. وكل شيء فعلوه في الزبر وكل صغير وكبير مستطر. إن المتقين في جنات ونهر في مقعد صدق عند مليك مقتدر. في مقعد صدق عند مليك مقتدر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها. قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Respected scholars, elders, youth, online viewers, salamun alaikum. I'm Alicia Kazmi, and on behalf of Muslim Youth in Motion, thank you for joining us on night 6 of this 11-night Muharram series. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my condolences to everyone here and to the Imam of our time on the greatest injustice, on the tragedy of Karbala. Truly, sisters and brothers, we are blessed. We are blessed to be given another year, another opportunity to commemorate and mourn this great tragedy. And as we talk about justice and land, I would like to acknowledge that this program is taking place on the Kwantlen, Squamish, Musqueam, and other Coast Salish lands. And sisters and brothers, this acknowledgement is so incredibly important because by doing so, we build the space for allyship with our indigenous sisters and brothers, recognizing what they went through, a reality that we recognize incredibly well, especially today. Now, as we discuss support, I am taken back 1,400 years ago as we remember and commemorate tonight the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam that gave up everything they had, everything, sacrificing themselves for justice and truth. So with that, sisters and brothers, I would like to invite my dear sister, Alwiya Dua Kazmi, who will be giving a speech tonight. So let us please welcome her with the loudest of your salawat. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Every year we join together to commemorate the greatest tragedy, the tragedy of Karbala. Through mourning, we are given an opportunity to reflect and better ourselves. So tonight, as we remember the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, let us take this opportunity to reflect and learn from the beautiful friendship of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Habib ibn Mudahhir. Who is Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Habib ibn Mudahhir? Imam Hussein alayhi salam is the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the son of Imam Ali alayhi salam and the son of Imam Ali alayhi salam and Sayyidah Fatima. Born into the household of light, a symbol of piety. Habib ibn Mudahhir is the companion of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, teaching us all how to love and sacrifice in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today, we'll talk about true friendship, and that during trials and difficulties, our best company is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we get closer to Allah by doing the right things, like staying content, being patient, and still being grateful, life becomes easier and beautiful. In Surah Fajr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I give you ease and blessings, difficulties and trials, only to test you, to see if you'll still be grateful and stay on my path. So sisters and brothers and all the kids out there, remember these lessons taught to us by our beloved imams to show you friendship and the importance of how we are taught to stick together in difficult times, how to love and respect one another, because this is the only way to be successful in this life and the hereafter. In Islam, we are introduced and taught about friendship. The Ahlul Bayt teaches us the qualities of what makes a good friend. We see this best while looking at Habib ibn Mudahhir, who is a companion of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and a true friend. The three qualities are: 1, befriending someone that is honest. 2, a friend who does not take advantage of you. And 3, a true friend is someone that brings you closer to the Ahlul Bayt and ultimately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should befriend someone who's honest, and not someone who has two personalities, someone with a double face. Because oftentimes, if you have a friend who has double standards, two personalities, or has a double face, this is a red flag. With their parents, they act in a certain way. With their friends, they act in a certain way. With you, they act in a certain way. This is a red flag. The second quality that we learn is, a true friend is one that does not take advantage of you. A true friend is someone who will ask you for help straightforward. They will never try to take advantage of you. They will never disrespect you. They will never talk bad behind your back. They will never side with your enemies. And your enemies will never feel comfortable talking bad about you in front of them. The third quality that Imam Ali alayhi salam talks about is mentioned in a beautiful hadith. He says, one of the qualities of a true friend are those whose presence reminds you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning their words, their speech increase your knowledge. And number 3, their actions remind you of the day of judgment. That's a true friend. A friend whom when you spend time with them, you are reminded of your creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A true friend is someone who makes you closer to the Almighty Allah. The Imam says true friends are those who, when you speak to them, you benefit from them. They give you a new perspective on life. They teach you how to be successful. They share good experiences with you. But sometimes, unfortunately, there are friends who turn us against our parents. How many times do we see in society that after hanging out with your friends, you start to hate your parents? You do not want to go back home. You do not get along with your siblings. Realize these are not good friends. Good friends are someone who, after spending time with them, you feel closer to your parents. You mourn to go back home, you miss them. You want to listen more to your parents. These are good friends. When you sit with your friends, ask yourself, have I learned anything? Have I gotten closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We see this through Habib ibn Mudahhir, who was a devout and pious man. He practiced virtues and observed the divine rules. He spent every night worshiping and supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. According to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he recited the whole Quran every night. He lived a simple and clean life. He was so uninterested in the material world and so pious that no matter how much money and security offers he received, he declined them all. We pray that Allah Azza wa Jal grants us the opportunity to work towards bettering ourselves, working towards being good, and that we are granted the intercession of our master Imam Hussein alayhi salam on the day of judgment. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Thank you for that beautiful speech, Sister Dua. May we truly learn from the lessons you mentioned and have the opportunity to implement them in our lives. Now, just a few housekeeping points before we start the program. A humble request from the organizers is to please leave noise control to the volunteers. We know that the MYM community is a large and diverse one with varying abilities and needs. So if you need assistance, please see a volunteer and they will be happy to provide support. The Walk with Hussein procession that is organized by Azai Hussein will be this Sunday, July 14th, at 2:30 p.m. And it will be starting at the Vancouver Public Library and ending at the Vancouver Art Gallery. Tomorrow night, also, we have a fundraiser. And I know I don't need to ask our community, but I will say this, that these programs are really the gardens from which blooms beautiful flowers of our youth. And know that when you are donating here, when you are investing here, you are investing not only in your youth, but you are investing in yourselves. Also, another reminder is that the ladies program is tomorrow, July 12th, and it will be here at this center, and it will be from 4 to 6 p.m. And lastly, prayers will be held in the hall due to the capacity of the center. But if sisters still want to pray, know that they can go from the back entrance. And again, before we end, I just want to say, please follow the instructions of the volunteers and be as patient with them as you can. They are here doing their best to serve you and ensure everyone's safety. So before we start the program, I'm going to ask if we have a lot of people that come later on. So I'm going to be asking everyone to just get up and move as close to the front as possible. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sisters, if I can get you to move all the way here. Brothers, if I can get you to move all the way to this line. There's lots of space. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please, if we can move as close. Now, as we are joined together to commemorate this great tragedy and learn and reflect, we would like to welcome the respected and esteemed Samahat Sayyid al-Modarresi, who will be guiding us and giving us the tools in reviving the Muslim community. So please let us welcome him with with 3 loud salawat. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله وعلى أهل بيتك المظلومين السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك السلام على الحسين وعلى علي ابن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى يا أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. In honor of the loyal companions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, please recite aloud salawat. Allahumma salli ala. The subject of our discussion tonight pertains to reviving the community. When we discuss this topic, we need to examine 4 aspects: our strengths and our weaknesses, and our challenges and opportunities. But before I delve into the topic, allow me to give you a brief introduction. During the heights of the encampment movement in the US that created waves with reverberations that were felt globally, was the start of a movement to change the political landscape, to change the social landscape. A group of billionaires and business titans, people from diverse backgrounds. You have the owner of a fast food restaurant. You have the CEO and owner of Dell, founder of Dell. And you have the previous CEO of Starbucks. And you have the property investors. And you have a group of people that called the mayor of New York City to urge him to send the police to disperse the protesters and remove the tents from the campus. This attracted the attention of major media outlets like the Washington Post and the New York Times, because the war in Gaza removed the veil from a secret alliance that people were not aware of. These people looked like independent individuals, each serving his own interests. They have nothing in common. But this war revealed that these people have a common cause that they're fighting for. They urged the mayor to send the police and discussed ways to pressure the president of Columbia University. And the mayor obliged, obviously. So this is the first time they see prominent figures who were willing to wield their influence, their power, their wealth to change the narrative, as they say. And this was very interesting to me. Why? Because a very small community that only comprises 0.2% of the world population and only 3% of the American population yield this much power. And after their interference and involvement, this changed everything. Everyone thought this is the start of a movement that will change. This didn't happen. Might happen in the future, might gain friction again and momentum, but they were successful in calming things down. Some people advocate for conspiracy theories, deep state and stuff like that. But I believe this is mostly to justify our laziness and our inaction. I was reminded of the hadith by Amir al-Mu'mineen mentioned in Nahj al-Balagha. I urge the brothers and sisters to read Nahj al-Balagha. I have said this before and I'll say it again. If you want to know about Islam, you read Nahj al-Balagha. You want to introduce people to Islam, you give them Nahj al-Balagha. Nahj al-Balagha gives you an insightful view of religion as exemplified by Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. So we're not talking about just concepts. Amir al-Mu'mineen practiced what he preached. And this is why he had to rule for 4 years. Otherwise, people would have said, a lot of people say things, but they never practice it. Ali ibn Abi Talib came, he practiced everything that he preached. He says, what aches the heart, in a statement, he says, what aches the heart is the fact that you see the mu'mineen that should be surrounded, that should be united around a legitimate common cause. You see them scattered. Everyone is working for his own interests. While you see the people that are revolving around an illegitimate cause, they are united. United around Muawiyah. United around his illegitimate goals. While you see the mu'mineen, we all have businesses. Some of us are very successful. But our concern is ourselves and our immediate family members. These people, their concern is not just their own interest, but also their community. Because they understand if the community is strong, they can achieve big goals. And they could stand their ground. And they become very powerful. So instead of working for your own goals and serving your own interest, you work for the community. We, as Shias, have a great deal of strength that we're unaware of. When it comes to numbers, Shias account for at least 1/3 of the Muslim population. this is the case in many countries. In other countries, maybe in North Africa, it's different. But in most countries where you have a large Muslim population, the Shias are 1/3 of the Muslim population. Let's say that this is an exaggerated figure. We are at least 25% of the Muslim population. The Muslim population is now reaching the 2 billion figure. What would that make us? At least 500 million people are Shias today in the world on a global scale. And as a community, because of our diversity, we're not an ethnic group. We come from different backgrounds. This is why we see every community celebrate in their own way, commemorate in their own way. We have our own festivities. And this allows us to permeate in the society. We are in every sector, in every field. We have professionals from in every field. I was in the UK, I met a brother who said to me that I work in the gaming industry. I was a university graduate working in the gaming industry. Went to Brisbane, Australia, found another guy who works in the gaming industry. So I said that for the future generation, especially with AI, it's revolutionizing video games. Video games might be the next education system in the future. Where are we? Why is there a monopoly over the gaming industry? There are only 8 countries that have monopolized this industry. Where are we? We see our kids hooked to video games for 4 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours per day. We have no control over them. A brother of mine here in Vancouver, he said, my son plays Fortnite all the time. You know how they interact with others? He was happy because he was able to convert 2 kids in his age group, he's like 14, to convert them to Islam. I said to him, well, that's interesting, but I'm pretty sure you have Muslims that are also influenced by other gamers out there. And you could see the impact on the society, on the community. People watch live YouTube feed of people playing games and commentating. I mean, we've seen people play, but see someone that is playing and commentating on it and has a 1 million live viewers. Outrageous. So I thought to myself, we need to connect these people together. Now I'm pretty sure in the future we'll have many Shias entering the gaming industry. We are very strong. We are very powerful. We don't lack anything. We have a rich heritage. I'm familiar with the heritage of other communities. Our heritage is unique, brothers and sisters. We have iconic figures and examples. Each one of them could fill our lives. The likes of Abu al-Fadl Abbas, the likes of Lady Zainab, the likes of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam alone. Look at what Imam al-Hussein is doing. How he could bring all these people in every corner of the world. Anyone that associates to Shia Islam has to attend these majalis, and we're proud of this. But this is the power of Hussein alayhi salam. We don't lack the money, we don't lack anything. We are very strong. But the problem is the community bond is very weak. We don't understand how powerful we are. We don't understand our potential, brothers and sisters. We don't know how valuable our heritage is. I remember 2 years ago, the mayor of a suburb in Sydney, in Australia, who nominated himself to become a parliament member of the federal government, he was speaking to us and he was saying that we as Shias have the capabilities to elect a member of the federal parliament to be part of the government. So I said to him, he said, we have the ability to at least have one person representing the Shias. So I said to him, what can we do with a single member of parliament? He said, believe it or not, if we have a single member representing us in the federal parliament, this single person will be the kingmaker. Could, with his influence, bring down the government. Could give rise to a government. Because you'll see the two competing parties trying to win him over. If they have policies that they want to push, they would have to come to this single vote that would tip the balance in favor of this party or the other party. All we need is one single member. And whenever they need his vote or her vote, alhamdulillah, we have now a member of the parliament, this lady from Adelaide. But every time they need their vote, they would have to give him incentives. And they splash cash on them. He could say that I have a community living in this suburb. They need a gym, they need a center, they need this, they need that. Give me $100 million. You'll become part of the government and part of the budget of the government. So we are very powerful, but we have no understanding of how powerful we are. We have no understanding of our rich heritage. And this is why we need to learn, we need to study. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam in a famous hadith says that if I was able to compel my followers to study, to learn, to seek religious knowledge, I would force them. لَيْتَ السِّيَاطَ عَلَى رُؤُوسِ أَصْحَابِي. I wish I can whip them. It's metaphorical. And I want to compel them to study, to learn about their heritage. If you learn about your heritage, you would never let go of it. And you would want to promote it. You would want other people to also know about it. So our weakness lies in the fact that we're not aware of our strengths. Now, when it comes to the challenges that we face, we find that in the introduction that I gave, we find that this group of people are very wealthy. Every year their name is on the billionaires list in Forbes magazine. And they have this economic system that they've built that allows them to make this alliance. And usually if there is an economic system in a place, in a community, this would strengthen the bond. Let me give you an example from politics. You find sometimes two neighboring countries that always feud over territorial disputes, natural resources, and what have you. What they do to try to mitigate or minimize the friction is they build economic alliance. When there is mutual interest, when there is the element of economy in their relationship, they would brush aside all their differences. And I have many examples in mind. And the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam planted the seed for an interdependent economic system within the community. First of all, we have the khumus. We should be absolutely independent when it comes to money. The khumus, 20% is a lot of money, unfortunately. Perhaps a large portion of the Shias don't pay khumus. I know it's difficult because it's hard to earn cash, but at the end of the day, this was something that the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam instilled to build a strong community. And also, we shouldn't find the Shia who is in need of money. A single Shia. There is a hadith that says that Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he told some of his companions that I am leaving behind this amount of money. If you ever saw Shias in need, you come and take from this money. We shouldn't see a single Shia who is poor. One day they saw Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam in the middle of the night. He goes to the impoverished areas of Medina and he is putting a loaf of bread under their pillows or under their heads. So a man recognizes the Imam. The Imam obviously was hiding, trying to conceal his identity. He recognizes the Imam. So he follows the Imam until the Imam goes back to his house. Before entering the house, he says, Ya ibn Rasulullah, I saw you do this to these people. The Imam said, Alhamdulillah. It's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To be able to help others is a blessing from Allah. Then he said to the Imam, Ya ibn Rasulullah, these people are not from our community. They don't even believe in you. The Imam said, so what? Then the Imam said this, لو كانوا, if they were from our community, لشاركناهم ملح طعامنا. It would have been incumbent upon us to bring them to our homes. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. They shouldn't be living outside in the street. This shouldn't happen. And there is so much emphasis on this issue. For example, a hadith says that if you have a house and you have a community member that doesn't have a house, that's struggling with rent, if you don't give him, and he asks you, do you have a house? Can I stay at your house? And you refuse, on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deny you a place of residence in paradise. لَشَارَكْنَاهُمْ مِلْحَ طَعَامِنَا. The Ahl Bayt were not looking for fame or anything. This was a duty that they performed to teach us Shi'as. One day, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he sent someone to Medina while he was in Kufa. The Imam had relatives and cousins that did not believe in his imamah. From the children of Imam al-Hasan Mustafa. Can I ask the brothers to move forward a little bit? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the Imam sent someone who was going to Medina. He told him to give this money. He gave the names of the individuals that the Imam wanted to deliver the money to. Some of them were his relatives. So the guy goes to Medina and he meets with these people. The Imam tells him not to reveal the name of the donor, the name of the people, of the person giving this money to them. So he goes to Medina, only to return 2 months later. He comes to the Imam. He said, Ya ibn Rasulullah, I gave them the money. But each person that received the money started to attack you. They said, Jazakallah khayrah. May God reward that person that gave us the money. And may God punish Ja'far ibn Muhammad. Because he has abandoned us. And this guy who's a stranger who doesn't even know us, he's helping us. So maybe it was appropriate for me to mention your name. I didn't, but these people don't know that you are caring, you are considerate. So then the Imam, look at the response of the Imam. I thought to myself that if I was in the shoes of the Imam, I would say, see, no matter what I do, these community members would never appreciate it, would never. The Imam said, he straight away prostrated before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, did sujood, and then he said, Alhamdulillah alladhi adhalla raqabati li bani abi. Alhamdulillah, I am thankful to God that I've been humbled, humiliated to help my relatives, to help my community members. You see the spirit? And you see how there is no resemblance between our lifestyle and the lifestyle of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. If someone disrespects us, we would never say hi to them. And look at Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. So the Imam wanted to establish an economic system where the members of the community are interdependent on each other. For example, the hadith says that when you want to buy meat, make sure that you buy the meat from a Shia. Even though we all know as Muslims we can It's halal. When you see a Muslim butcher, or someone working at a restaurant who's a Muslim, if they tell you that the meat is halal, khalas, you don't need to investigate further. The Prophet said, the Imam says that the Prophet forbade people from investigating when a Muslim is telling them the meat is halal. Yes, if you know the meat is haram, it's a different story. But if you don't know, a Muslim is telling you it's halal. Whether this Muslim is a fasiq or a non-fasiq, if you know he's lying, it's different. But he's a Muslim telling you that this is halal. Khalas. But the Imam says, when you want to buy meat from a fellow Shia community member. And then the Imam adds this religious ritual to it. He says that a Shia, it's required, it's not wajib. The Imam says that a Shia slaughtering a sheep is recommended to say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. If you want to recite a salawat, recite a loud salawat. So you go to a community member's business and buy the meat from him. You might say that this is sectarian. No. You find other communities, ethnic-based communities. For example, you go to the Turks. They only buy meat from a Turkish butcher. And I remember once I was in Belgium, and I went to this restaurant, Turkish restaurant. I wanted to buy meat. I wasn't sure about whether the meat is halal or not. So I asked the guy, I said, this guy is saying that it's halal. Is it true? For the guy said, it is true. Because this is a Turkish restaurant and Turks only buy from Turks. So there's nothing wrong with it. You can always buy from Muslims. But the Imam says to create this economic system, when there is an economic system in place, when we have mutual interest, this would make the community stronger. This would make a stronger bond between community members, as the example that I cited about the differences between two neighboring countries. Despite all the frictions, despite all the tensions, when there is economic mutual interest in place, you see them brush all the differences aside and live together peacefully. This is something that the Imams try to plant to make a strong community. This is on the economic domain. One of the other challenges that we face as a community is the disunity. The disunity is a big deal, brothers and sisters. This is something that we really need to work on. Let me give you a hadith, just to give you a glimpse of how dangerous disunity is within the community. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, I wish I could give a part of my flesh, my body, to resolve a dispute between two community members, a financial dispute. There is a financial dispute between two people. The Imam says, I wish I can give a part of my flesh, to resolve this dispute. Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam says that if there is a dispute between two Shias, he said, I would allow this dispute to continue for 3 days. After 3 days, if this dispute is not resolved, I would curse both parties. Ya ibn Rasulullah, what are you talking about? One of them could be oppressed, the other is the oppressor. The Imam said, and maybe it's a bit difficult to comprehend this because of the distance between us and our ideals. He said, Ma balul madloom. Why shouldn't the oppressed go to the oppressor and tell him, you know what, I am the oppressor. Can you forgive me, just to resolve the dispute? Why? Because the Imam is looking at the bigger picture. When you see two community members fighting, one of them decides to boycott the majlis. Do you understand the repercussions? Do you understand the implications? The entire family then decides to stay at home and not attend any of our functions. You know how will that negatively affect the children and the generations to come? Who's responsible for this? The imams look at the bigger picture. Yes, you go to him, and we understand how severe these disputes are. You might fight with a community member. That community member might not be able to sleep at night thinking about the hostility that happened with this individual. So this is why the Imams alayhimus salam tried relentlessly to remove the friction. We at the end belong to the same school of thought. We subscribe to the same line of thinking. And the pivot in our culture are the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. The hadith says that the Prophet never ever was angered for a personal reason. How many times did they wrong the Prophet? How many times did they attack the Prophet? They broke his teeth, they killed his uncle. He never took revenge. The Prophet only became angry when the laws of God were sidestepped. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be enraged. Even though he's a human being, but he controls himself. Never once. Never. They killed his uncle. He goes to Mecca. اذهبوا فأنتم الطلقاء. But our hearts are dead, brothers and sisters. When we have no forgiveness. He said to me this 5 years ago. I don't want to talk to him. This is not what Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam taught us. This is not what Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam want from us. On a night like this, we commemorate the tragedy of the Ashab. One of them was Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyah. You know what Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi did to Imam al-Hussein? If you look at history, the Imam reaches Karbala. He meets with Hurr. Hurr says to him that I have orders not to allow you to go to Kufa. So he's standing in the face of the Imam, literally. Their noses are touching. The Imam wants to go, he's not letting the Imam go. The Imam goes to the right, Hurr goes to the right. The Imam goes to the left, Hurr goes to the left. And then the Imam says to him that, do you want to engage? You want to fight? He says, no. I don't have orders to engage. But I can't let you go to Kufa. The Imam said, fine, I'll return to Medina. He said, no, this is not happening. I can't let you go back to Medina. The Imam said, ثَكَلَتْكَ أُمُّكَ. May your mother grieve at your death. He said, your mother is Fatima al-Zahra. Otherwise, I would have returned the slander. Of course, it wasn't a curse. May your mother grieve at your death. And this was a wake-up call. And this was a reminder to Hurr that you're dealing with the son of Fatima al-Zahra. Because he wanted to say the same thing to Imam al-Hussein. Oh my God, he's the son of Fatima. Anyway, one thing led to the other until it was the day of Ashura. He decides to join the camp of Imam al-Hussein. And this has never happened in history. Where a winning army, someone, a general in a winning army, defects to join the small army that will inevitably be defeated. This has never happened in history. So he goes to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, but he's shy. He's ashamed of himself for what he did. So he goes and he bows down, casts his head down, and then he salutes the Imam. The Imam says to him, who are you? Instead of identifying himself, saying who he is by name, he says, أنا الذي جعجعت بك الطريق. He identifies himself through his action, through what he did to Imam al-Hussein. I was the one that prevented you from going to Kufa. I was the one that was responsible for this besiege around you. I was the one responsible for all the tears of the women and children now. I am responsible for the thirst of your women and children. I did all of that. هل لي من توبة? He doesn't say, Ya Aba Abdullah, forgive me. Because he knows a sin like this may not be forgiven. هل لي من توبة? The Imam said to him, don't lower your head down. Raise your head. ارفع رأسك يا شيخ. You are in the presence of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. You don't cast your head down. In tub ta'ab Allah alayk. Yes, if you repent, God will forgive you as well. These are the teachings of Ahl Bayt. Forgiveness. Be careful not to hurt anyone. The hadith says that if you hurt a mu'min and then give him the entire dunya, everything in this world, this will not compensate for what you did to him. Be very vigilant of what you say. Sometimes you say something to the child of a person that would hurt them. Be very considerate. We need to have something called social diplomacy. This is a sign of the intellect, the hadith says. The Prophet says, أَمَرَنِي رَسُولُ اللَّهِ بِمُدَارَاتِ النَّاسِ. Yes, we come from diverse backgrounds. Each one of us has, his own taste. This is why there are so many sensitivities that we need to accommodate. But the Prophet ﷺ says that I've been ordered by God to practice social diplomacy. And he was dealing with diverse group of people from different backgrounds, people that were so ignorant. But the Prophet was considerate with everyone. The hadith says the more considerate you are, the more you practice social diplomacy with people. Sometimes you say, no, he needs to know this. The Ahl Bayt could have said this. Sometimes in marital disputes, you would find the spouse say that my spouse, my husband, my wife, she did this and I needed to tell her this. And this is why a fight ensued. This is not what the Ahl Bayt alayhi salam are teaching us. Inshallah, life will teach them. It doesn't have to be you to prove yourself right. No. This is why the hadith says that if there is a dispute between you and another community member, if he has wronged you, oppressed you, transgressed the boundaries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let Allah take revenge for you. God's revenge is better than your own revenge. Let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deal with it. If it's very severe, if it's very horrible. Otherwise, could it be more horrible than what Hur did to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam? And Imam al-Hussein forgave him. This is why disunity is something that the Ahl Bayt alayhi salam worked hard to remove, to an extent that Imam al-Rida alayhi salam says, stay away from causing friction and tensions in the community. And don't be preoccupied with attacking each other. This group attacks the other group. This individual attacks that individual. This family attacks the other family. Then the Imam says, فَإِنِّي عَاهَدْتُ اللَّهِ. I have made a vow. If a person is preoccupied with attacking other family members, that I would pray after every salat and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring down His wrath on that person, both in this life and in the hereafter. And يُعَذِّبَهُ بِأَشَدِّ الْعَذَابِ, in this life and in the afterlife. And maybe this is why the hadith says that most of the tribulations that we face in life is because of the tongue. You hurt other people, right? You face tribulations in life. Sickness, disease, either affecting you, affecting your children, misery, poverty. Be careful what you say. Be careful not to hurt other people. فَإِنِّي, I asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring down His wrath in this life. In this life. You'll live a miserable life and in the afterlife. While it's the opposite. When you help community members, a man comes to Imam Musa ibn Ja'far. He says to him, Ya ibn Rasulullah, the governor of Ray, modern day Tehran, they say that he's a Shia, a secret Shia, of course. It was during Harun's time. He conceals his identity. But I fear that he might confiscate my wealth. I haven't been paying my taxes, and if the authorities learn about my situation, they would confiscate all my wealth. So I want you to intervene, to write a letter to that man to exempt me from punishment. So the Imam writes a letter to the governor of Ray. And this is another trait of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. When someone comes up to them and asks them to intervene in helping them, they would straight away say, okay. They would help them. The hadith says, "Man sa'a fi hajati akhihi al-mu'min." If a brother of yours comes to you and says to you that I want you to speak to that guy, I want to marry his daughter. I want to take a loan from someone. If you can speak to them, the hadith says that if you walk with this man to alleviate his pain, to help him, it's like walking between Safa and Marwa. It's a form of ibadah, a form of worship. So he goes to Tahran, knocks the door. It was nighttime apparently, for the doorkeeper comes out and he says, these are not working hours, so if you can come tomorrow. He said, just tell me, I can't come tomorrow during the day. I can't come during business hours. If you can just tell him that I've been sent by Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim alayhi salam. He goes inside and moments later, the governor, which was like the president of Iran back then, he comes out without wearing a turban, without wearing shoes. So he embraces this guy and takes the letter of the Imam without even opening it. He kisses it, he places it on his forehead. What do you want? Is there anything that you need? Please order me, let me know. So he tells him the story. He said, you've been exempt from the financial liabilities that you have. And not only that, I will sign a document. No one will ever be able to confiscate your wealth. Are you happy? He said, yes, I am happy. Definitely I'm happy. He said, wait. And then he began giving him money. Thousands of golden dinars. And he said to him that I've split my wealth in half. I gave you half of my wealth. Even his shoes, he gave him a pair of shoes. And then this guy said that, then I left Tehran, I went to Hajj. Next year, I thought I would go to Mecca and then come to Medina to tell Imam Musa ibn Ja'far about what the governor did to me. So he comes to Imam Musa ibn Ja'far, he tells him the story. The Imam said, Asarrak, did he make you happy? He said, Bala wallah asarrani. I'm so happy for what he did to me. He said, Wallah laqad asarrani. By God, he made me happy. He made my father, Imam al-Sadiq, happy. He made my grandfather, Imam al-Baqir, happy. His father, Imam Zayn al-Abidin, happy. His father, Imam al-Hussein, happy. Imam al-Hasan, happy. Amir al-Mu'mineen, happy. The Prophet, happy. Fatima al-Zahra, happy. Jibreel, happy. And he made Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy. You make a mu'min happy. If you instill joy in the heart of a mu'min, this is what happens. This is why the hadith says, in creating social cohesion, the hadith says, praying for your brethren in faith would give you two things. It would guarantee the answering of the prayer, and it would increase your livelihood. Fi dhahr al-ghayb, without telling him. You pray for community members. You know how effective that is in self-doctrination, in creating that social cohesion, in loving others. This is why the hadith says that if you pray for 40 believers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer your prayer after you make a prayer. You know how they do it in Salatul Layl, in night vigil? There is no hadith that says that it's required or recommended to pray for 40 mu'min. But there is a hadith that says praying for 40 believers would guarantee the answering of your prayer. Again, they do this to strengthen the community bonds. When you're praying for someone, you know how they say that if you meet a brother in faith, you greet him, you say salam to him. You know who is greater in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? أَشَدُّهُمْ حُبًّا لِصَاحِبِهِ. The hadith says, when two mu'mineen shake hands, the hadith says, this would result in the sins falling off. When you shake hands, this is a physical gesture that helps in strengthening the bond. The hadith says, you know who is greater in the eyes of God? The one that loves his fellow community member more. He's greater in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is instilling the love of community members, fellow community members in our hearts? With respect to the opportunities that we have, I will only mention one point. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Allah in the Quran says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ. There is nothing, no magnetic force is as powerful as Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam in bringing the hearts together. You've seen Ziyaratul Arba'in. Have you ever seen a fight, a dispute during the ziyarah? 20 million people walking. I've seen people that unintentionally, while people are sleeping on the side of the road, one would trip and fall on a sleeping man. The guy gets up and kisses the foot of that guy that tripped over him. What would usually happen if this happens in a different setting? This harmony is created by Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. You see how people generously open their homes and spend their money. I'm aware of a man, a businessman in Basra, who spends $1 million giving food during Ziyarat al-Arba'in. 1 million. And you know, as the more wealthy you get, the stingier you get. But Imam al-Hussein changes the calculus, changes the dynamics. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the thing that can bring us together is Hablullah. And Hablullah are the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Otherwise, we see people go to Hajj. You've been to Hajj, the people that have been to Hajj. Do you see any harmony in Hajj? Unfortunately not. Yes, we pray towards the same Kaaba, but you don't feel that connection with fellow Muslims. Why? Because the element of Ahlul Bayt is missing. The Quran is saying, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ. He is the one that creates harmony. لو أنفقت ما في الأرض, if you spend all the money in the world, you can't bring these hearts together. God can bring the hearts together. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing so through Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He changes the nature of humans. We see this during the Arab. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And this was exemplified in the companions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. On the eve of Ashura, as I mentioned on the first night, Imam al-Hussein spoke, and then he said to them, إِنِّي لَا أَعْلَمُ أَصْحَابًا. I am not aware of any companion that is more loyal. I am not aware of companions more loyal and more faithful than my companions. Yes, the Imam is aware of the companions of his father, Amir al-Mu'mineen, the companions of Rasulullah, and the companions of previous prophets. He says, you stand out. You are unique. You are more loyal and more faithful than any other companions in history. He said to them to leave. They said, Ya ibn Rasulullah, leave to do what? لو كانت الحياة لنا باقية. Muslim ibn Awsaja says, if we were supposed to live for eternity or die with you, we would rather die with you than live a life without Hussein alayhi salam. Muslim ibn Awsaja met with Habib ibn Mudahir. During the time of Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, everything was happening in secret. Muslim ibn Awsaja apparently was carrying a bag, his clothes. He was going to the hammam to take a bath. Habib meets with him. He says to him, Muslim, where are you going? He said, I want to take a bath. He said, you want to take a bath? Do you know that Hussein is in Karbala and he's besieged and he's looking for companions? Come with me, join me. He immediately joined Habib in his journey to Karbala. He didn't say, I have a business to mind, I have kids, I have family members. Straight away. And they leave together, they go outside Kufa, and then they join the camp of Imam al-Hussein. He says to the Imam, Ya Aba Abdullah, I will fight these people with my arrow until it breaks. I will fight them with my sword until I can no longer hold it. And when I don't have a weapon to fight these people, I would throw pebbles at them. One of them says to the Imam, Yabna Rasulullah, if I was to be killed and then burnt, and then my ashes are dispersed in the desert, this happens to me 70 times, I will not leave you. Don't even try, Ya Aba Abdullah. And then Nafi' ibn Hilal says to the Imam, Yabna Rasulullah, Ma karihna liqa'a Rabbina. We don't hate meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We welcome death. وَإِنَّا عَلَى بَصَائِرِنَا. We have insight, Ya ibn Rasulullah. We know that you represent the right path. This is why we've joined you. نُوَالِي مَنْ وَالَاكَ وَنُعَادِي مَنْ عَادَاكَ. We support the ones that support you. We love those that love you, and we fight those that fight you. It's all about this. We have a pivot that we revolve around. If that person, that community member, happens to revolve around the orbit of Imam al-Hussein, is a lover of Ali ibn Abi Talib, then their ethnicity, their background is irrelevant. He is a brother of yours. And the hadith says, Al-mu'min akhul mu'min min abihi wa ummih. A mu'min is a brother of a mu'min from his mother and his father. Abuhu an-nur wa ummuhu ar-rahmah. His father is light and his mother is mercy. We are with those that are with you, and we are against those that are against you. A man comes to the Imam, he says to him, Ya ibn Rasulullah, I am with those that are with you. I don't care if there is personal vendetta between me and those people. As long as they are loyal to you, I am loyal to them as well. وَلِيٌّ لِمَنْ وَالَاكَ لَا لِقَرَابَةٍ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَهُ. Not because there is any family ties between me and him. I am loyal to them. And I am an enemy of your enemy, even when there is no friction between me and him. But he is an enemy of Ahlul Bayt. I am an enemy of the enemies of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. This is why you see this diverse group of people from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different colors, different languages. They all came together in Karbala. And they were all equal in the eyes of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Don't say he's inferior to me, I am superior to him. Don't say he's uneducated, I am educated. Don't say this, don't say that. They're all equal. This is why we find that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, on the day of Ashura, he treated John, the African slave, the way he treated Ali al-Akbar, his son. The Imam said to John, Ya John, you used to serve us. Why should you be killed for us? He said, Ya ibn Rasulullah, don't say this. I will stay with you until my blood is mixed with your blood. He goes, he fights, he falls. His eyes were covered with blood. Suddenly, he feels someone is approaching. He thinks that this is an enemy combatant that has come to finish him. But this man comes closer to him and puts his head on his lap and then places his cheek on his cheek. So he thinks to himself, I don't have any fellow tribal members in this part of town. I don't have any family members. I know no one in this town. He opens his eyes only to see Hussein placing his cheek on his cheek. This is when he said, Man mithli wa ibn bint Rasulillah wadi'an khaddahu ala. Who is like me when the son of Rasulullah has placed his cheek on my cheek? And this is the exact way Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam treated his son Ali al-Akbar when he fell. So we're all equal as long as we follow the same path and revolve in the same orbit in the eyes of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Muslim Awsaja goes to the battlefield until he falls. He falls just moments before his death. Imam al-Hussein and Habib ibn Mudahar, they go to Muslim. Imam al-Hussein praises him. Then Habib says to him, even though I know that a few moments later I will be joining you, but if you have any concerns that you want to tell me about your family, about things that you want me to do after you, please let me know. He said, Ya Habib, come, I want to tell you something in your ears. with a very faint voice, he looked at Imam al-Hussein, pointed towards the Imam. He said, قاتل دون هذا حتى تقتل. My only will is I want you to stay with this man until you are killed. نصروك أحياء وعند مماتهم. While they were alive, they supported you, Ya Aba Abdullah. وعند مماتهم أوصى بنصرتك الحبيب حبيبا. Even during their death, their only concern is Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He didn't say my family, my children in Kufa, my businesses. قاتل دونه حتى تقتل. It was prayer time. The Imam had to pray while they were still fighting. So a man by the name of Sa'id ibn Abdullah, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayh, he stood in front of the Imam, shielding the Imam from the attacks. History tells us that every time the Imam was showered with arrows and spears, the man would shield the Imam not with his shield, but with his face, with his chest, with his bare hands. When the Imam finished his prayer, the man fell. Apparently he was mustering his strength until the Imam finishes. When the Imam finished, he couldn't resist anymore. He fell. When he fell, the Imam said, may Allah reward you. He looked at the Imam and said, أو أفيت يا أبا عبد الله? Was I loyal enough to you, Aba Abdullah? So even though they're laying their soul before the Imam, but he's still questioning whether he was loyal to the Imam or not. I will conclude with this story. So the Imam made the plea. هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ذاب يذب عنا. Suddenly a little child, no one knows his name, he came out of the tent while wearing his armor and carrying a sword. So the Imam saw him. He said, do I have a permission to fight? The Imam said, if you can return him to the tent, maybe his mother is not pleased with him going to the battlefield. He said, سيدي أبا عبد الله إن أمي هي التي ألبستني لامة حربي. The mothers couldn't join the men, but they could send their children. When they heard the heart-wrenching plea, she sent her son. His father was killed in the battlefield. My mother is telling me to fight. So he goes into the battlefield. Usually, the poems that they recite, the aim is to introduce yourself. But this guy didn't introduce himself. He didn't even want to be known in the future. He said, أميري حسين ونعم الأمير. You want to know who I am? Hussein is my Amir. أميري حسين ونعم الأمير. سرور فؤاد البشير النذير. The fruit of the eyes of Rasulullah. علي وفاطمة والداه. His mother is Fatima, his father is Ali. فهل تعلمون له من نظير. He fought until he was killed. These enemies mercilessly severed his head and threw it towards the camp of Imam al-Hussein. The mother came, carried the head of her son. بيضت وجهي عند فاطمة الزهراء بيض الله وجهك. You made my face luminous when I meet Fatima al-Zahra. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala illuminate your face as well. And then she carried a stick, wanted to go to the battlefield and fight, while reciting, أنا عجوز سيدي ضعيفة. I might be an old lady, frail, but I want to join in the battlefield and defend the son of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. But the Imam came and he said that fighting is only prescribed upon men and not upon women. She said, Ilahi la tukhayyib dhanni. Oh God, don't disappoint me. I want to be killed today. Imam al-Hussein said to her, may Allah never disappoint you. May Allah reward you. You will be joining Rasulullah with your son on the day of judgment. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ الْعَلِيِّ الْعَظِيمِ. والعاقبة للمتقين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسين صلواتك. I want to hear your voices. أحسنتم. في هذه This prayer would make Fatima al-Zahra happy. Louder, please. وقائدا ودليلا وتمتعه برحمتك اللهم هب لنا رأفته ورحمته ودعاءه وخيره ما ننال به سعة من رحمتك وفضلا عندك يا كريم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Please recite Surah Al-Fatiha after a loud salawat.
Inshallah, we will be doing the adhan very shortly. There's a QR code for you to scan and to fill out a quick form if you can while the adhan is happening. That would be greatly appreciated on the brothers and the sisters side.